Imagine holding a single silver coin in your hand. It weighs only 25 grams. It fits comfortably in your palm. Yet inside that small circle of silver lives the story of an empire that once ruled nearly a quarter of the world. This is not just money. It is a witness. It watched kings rise before they were old enough to speak. It survived political revolutions. It crossed oceans aboard Spanish warships. It was carried through royal palaces, crowded marketplaces, colonial ports, and battlefields. It was born during the final years of one of history's greatest empires. And today, more than a century later, collectors around the world search for it, not only because of its silver value, but because every scratch, every mark, and every tiny detail tells the story of a nation standing at the edge of monumental change. This is the 1895 Spanish Five Pesetas. And today, we're going to uncover every secret hidden within this remarkable coin. We'll explore its history, its design, its silver, its hidden mint marks, its rarity, its value, and the incredible historical events that transformed it from everyday money into one of Spain's most fascinating silver coins. This is not simply the story of a coin. This is the story of the end of an empire. Spain before the coin. To understand this coin, we must first understand the country that created it. For centuries, Spain stood among the most powerful nations on earth. Beginning in the late 15th century, Spanish explorers crossed oceans that Europeans had never dared to navigate. Christopher Columbus's voyage in 1492 opened the door to a vast overseas empire stretching across the Americas, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Within only a few decades, Spain controlled territories from modern Mexico to Peru. From Cuba to the Philippines. From Naples to the Netherlands. Gold and silver poured into Spanish ports. Ships returned every year carrying unimaginable wealth from the mines of Mexico and Peru. During the 16th century, Spain became richer than any European kingdom. Its armies were feared. Its navy dominated the seas. Its language spread across continents. Its influence shaped global history. But no empire lasts forever. Over the following centuries, Spain fought expensive wars. It struggled with political instability. Economic crises became increasingly common. Many colonies demanded independence. By the early 19th century, most of Spain's American possessions had broken away. The vast empire that had once seemed unstoppable began slowly shrinking. Yet Spain remained a proud kingdom. Its monarchy survived. Its traditions endured. And despite its challenges, it continued producing some of Europe's most beautiful silver coins. Among them, the Five Pesetas. A king who was never crowned as a child. Most kings inherit the throne after years of preparation. Some spend decades learning diplomacy. Others train as soldiers. But Alfonso XIII entered history in a way almost no other monarch ever had. He became king the very moment he was born. His father, King Alfonso XII, died in November 1885. His mother, Queen Maria Cristina of Austria, was pregnant. Nobody knew whether the unborn child would be a boy or a girl. 4 months. Spain had no reigning monarch. The future of the monarchy rested entirely on an unborn baby. If the child were a girl, succession would become complicated. Political instability could follow. The nation waited. Then, on May 17, 1886, the child was born. A son. Immediately upon birth. Without ever wearing a crown. Without taking an oath. Without speaking a single word. The newborn infant became King Alfonso XIII of Spain. It remains one of the most extraordinary royal successions in European history. Since the king was only minutes old, his mother ruled as queen regent. For 16 years, Maria Cristina governed Spain in her son's name. Every law, every treaty, every royal decision was officially made for a king who was still learning to walk. When the 5 pesetas coin shown here was struck in 1895, Alfonso XIII was only 9 years old. The portrait we see on the coin is not symbolic. It is an actual representation of a child king. Very few nations have ever placed such a young monarch on their circulating coinage. That alone makes these coins historically unique. Why Spain needed a new portrait? Throughout history, coins have served an important political purpose. They spread the ruler's image farther than paintings ever could. Long before newspapers, before radio, before television, coins carried the face of the king into every city, every village, every marketplace. Millions of people might never see their monarch in person, but they would recognize his face from the coins in their pockets. As Alfonso XIII grew older, Spain regularly updated his portrait on its coinage. Collectors today often refer to these designs by different portrait types. The earliest issues show him as a child. Later coins portray him as a teenager. Eventually, they depict him as an adult king with a mustache. This makes Alfonso XIII coinage especially fascinating. Collectors can literally watch the king grow older through the nation's money. The 1895 5 pesetas belongs to what collectors call the baby head or young bust portrait. It captures a brief moment in history, when Spain was ruled by a child, and the empire still believed its greatest days were not yet behind it. The birth of the 5 pesetas. The peseta became Spain's official currency in 1868. It replaced several older monetary systems that had become complicated and inconsistent. The new decimal system simplified trade. 100 centimos equaled 1 peseta. The 5 pesetas quickly became the highest value silver circulation coin. It represented substantial purchasing power. For many working people, earning 5 pesetas could mean several days' wages. These coins were not spent casually. They were often saved, given as gifts, used for important purchases, or carefully stored within family savings. Because of their large size and impressive silver content, they also projected confidence. When someone held a 5 pesetas coin, they immediately recognized its value. It felt heavy, solid, important. It reflected Spain's determination to maintain a stable national currency despite growing political and economic uncertainty. The artist behind the king's portrait. Creating the image of a monarch was one of the highest honors an artist could receive. The portrait on the 5 pesetas was designed by the distinguished Spanish engraver Bartolomé Mora y Montaner. His initials, B.M., appear beneath the king's neck. Although tiny, those initials represent hundreds of hours of artistic work. Mora carefully studied official royal portraits. Every strand of hair, every curve of the face, every youthful feature had to be accurately reproduced. Unlike modern digital design, everything was engraved by hand into hardened steel dies. One small mistake could ruin weeks of work. The final result remains one of the finest royal portraits ever placed on Spanish coinage. Notice the youthful curls, the calm expression, the smooth profile. There is confidence, but also innocence. It reminds us that the king shown here was still a child carrying the enormous responsibility of an ancient monarchy. Reading the front of the coin. Before we can understand this coin, we have to learn how to read it. Every letter, every symbol, every tiny mark engraved into its silver was placed there for a reason. Nothing is accidental. Let's begin with the portrait. The young face looking toward the left is King Alfonso XIII. Unlike many earlier European monarchs who were shown wearing crowns, armor, or ceremonial robes, Alfonso appears simple, natural, youthful. There is no crown upon his head, no military uniform, no royal jewels. Instead, the engraver wanted the nation to see its king exactly as he was. A young boy. His soft curls frame his face. His jawline is still that of a child. His expression is calm, almost thoughtful. It is remarkable that millions of Spaniards carried the portrait of a king who was still attending lessons under the supervision of his mother, Queen Maria Cristina. Very few circulating coins in world history have ever portrayed such a young monarch. Even today, this portrait remains one of the most recognizable images in Spanish numismatics. The royal inscription. Around the portrait is a long inscription. It reads, Alfonso XIII por lag de Dios. Translated into English, it means, Alfonso XIII, by the grace of God. This phrase was far more than decoration. For centuries, European monarchs claimed that their authority came directly from God. This concept is known as the divine right of kings. It meant the king ruled not because people elected him, but because God had chosen him. The words, por la gracia de Dios, appeared on countless Spanish coins for generations. They reminded every citizen that questioning the king was, in many ways, questioning divine authority itself. Although modern governments no longer use this principle, during the 19th century, it remained one of the strongest foundations of monarchy. The date. At the bottom, we see the date. 1895. Most collectors assume this tells us exactly when the coin was struck. But that is only partly true. Spanish coins from this era hide another date. A secret date. One that many people overlook. And discovering it can mean the difference between owning a common coin or a valuable rarity. We'll return to that mystery shortly. The designer's signature. Just beneath the king's neck, tiny letters appear. B.M. These are the initials of Bartolomé Mora. Most people never notice them. Yet these two tiny letters identify one of Spain's greatest medallic artists. His portrait is admired because it combines realism with elegance. Unlike earlier stiff royal portraits, Mora gave Alfonso XIII a natural appearance. The result is a portrait that still feels alive more than 100 years later. Turning the coin over. Now, turn the coin over. The reverse tells an entirely different story. Where the obverse celebrates the king, the reverse celebrates the nation itself. At the center stands Spain's magnificent royal coat of arms. This is not simply decoration. It is a map of Spain's history. Every section represents a different kingdom that united over centuries to create modern Spain. Let's examine each one. The castle. The Golden Castle represents the ancient kingdom of Castile. Castile became one of medieval Europe's most powerful kingdoms. Its armies expanded southward during the Reconquista. Eventually, Castile became the political heart of Spain. The lion. The lion represents the kingdom of Leon. It symbolizes courage, strength, and royal authority. Together, Castile and Leon formed the foundation of what would become Spain. The red stripes. The four red vertical bars represent the crown of Aragon. Aragon controlled much of the western Mediterranean. Its influence reached Italy, Sicily, and beyond. The chains. The linked golden chains represent the kingdom of Navarre. According to tradition, they commemorate King Sancho VII's victory at the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa in 1212. The broken chains became a lasting symbol of freedom and triumph. The pomegranate. At the bottom sits a single pomegranate. This represents Granada. Granada was the final Muslim kingdom on the Iberian Peninsula. Its conquest in 1492 completed the Reconquista and united Spain under Ferdinand and Isabella. That same year, Christopher Columbus sailed west. One tiny fruit on this coin quietly marks one of history's most significant years. The blue shield. At the center lies a small blue shield decorated with 3 golden fleurs-de-lis. This represents the House of Bourbon. The Bourbon dynasty had ruled Spain since the early 18th century. Alfonso XIII himself belonged to this royal family. Even today, Spain's current royal family descends from the Bourbons. The crown above. Resting atop the shield is the royal crown. It represents the sovereignty of the Spanish monarchy. Its arches rise toward a small globe topped with a cross. This design symbolizes Christian kingship and royal authority. Every detail was engraved with extraordinary precision. Even after decades of circulation, many examples still show remarkable craftsmanship. The Pillars of Hercules. Perhaps the most famous feature on Spanish coinage. The Pillars of Hercules. Standing on each side of the shield. They represent the legendary entrance to the Mediterranean Sea. Ancient Greeks believed these cliffs marked the edge of the known world. Beyond them, they imagined endless ocean. When Spain discovered the Americas, the old belief changed forever. Instead of ending at the pillars, Spanish ships sailed beyond them. This inspired Spain's national motto, Plus Ultra, meaning further beyond. The message was simple. There is always another horizon, another ocean, another world waiting to be explored. This motto still appears on modern Spanish coins today. The coin's specifications. Now let's examine the physical characteristics. This coin is substantial. Weight: 25 grams. Diameter: 37 millimeters. Thickness: approximately 2.5 millimeters. Metal composition: 90% silver, 10% copper. The copper strengthens the coin. Pure silver is relatively soft. Without copper, large silver coins would wear quickly in circulation. Because of this alloy, the coin maintained both beauty and durability. Its actual silver content equals 22.5 grams, or 0.7234 troy ounces of pure silver. That silver alone gives the coin intrinsic value. Even if every historical detail disappeared, its precious metal content would still make it desirable. Hidden mint marks. Now we come to one of the most fascinating secrets. Look beside the date. You'll notice 2 tiny 6-pointed stars. Most people ignore them. Collectors never do. Inside these stars are microscopic numbers. These numbers reveal the actual year the coin was struck. For example, a coin dated 1895 may actually contain the star date 18 to 96. Or even 18 to 97. Why? Because Spain continued using the same master dies while updating only the tiny star punches. This saved both time and money. Today, these hidden dates help collectors identify scarce varieties. Reading them usually requires magnification. Without a loupe, they are nearly impossible to see. Many valuable coins have been overlooked simply because owners never examined the stars. Where was it made? The vast majority of these coins were struck at the Royal Mint in Madrid. By the late 19th century, the mint combined traditional craftsmanship with increasingly modern machinery. Large steel dies were engraved by master artists. Immense steam-powered presses then struck each blank under tremendous pressure. One powerful strike forced every tiny detail into the silver. Hair strands, letters, Beaded borders. The intricate royal coat of arms. Every feature depended upon perfectly prepared dies. The finished coins were inspected, counted, bagged, and released into circulation throughout Spain. Few workers inside the mint could have imagined that more than a century later, collectors around the world would treasure the coins they produced every day. Transition. For the people of 1895, this was simply money. For us, it is history preserved in silver. Every scratch tells a story. Every worn edge reflects countless hands that once depended on it. And soon, this very coin would witness one of the greatest turning points in Spanish history. An event that would forever change both the nation and the future of the five pesetas itself. A coin born during the end of an empire. By 1895, Spain was no longer the unstoppable empire it had once been. For nearly 4 centuries, Spanish ships had crossed every ocean. Its soldiers had conquered kingdoms. Its explorers had mapped continents. Its language had spread across the world. But by the late 19th century, the empire was fading. Most of Spain's American colonies had already gained independence decades earlier. Only a handful of overseas possessions remained. Among them, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and Guam. These territories were more than colonies. They were symbols of Spain's remaining global influence. Losing them would mean losing the last visible pieces of an empire that had once ruled nearly a quarter of the world. As the 1895 five pesetas entered circulation, few people realized they were holding a coin struck during the final chapter of Imperial Spain. Cuba erupts in rebellion. The same year this coin was struck, 1895, Cuba erupted into revolution. For decades, many Cubans had demanded greater political freedom. Others wanted complete independence from Spain. Earlier uprisings had been suppressed, but the desire for independence never disappeared. In February 1895, a new rebellion began. Leaders such as José Martí inspired thousands to fight for an independent Cuba. Spain responded by sending tens of thousands of soldiers across the Atlantic. War consumed the island. Young Spanish recruits, many carrying coins like this very five pesetas in their pockets, sailed from Spanish ports to fight in a conflict that would become increasingly costly. The war drained Spain's treasury. Taxes increased. Government debt grew. And silver coins like the five pesetas became an increasingly important part of financing the nation's economy. The war that changed everything. Just 3 years later, in 1898, the world changed forever. Following the explosion of the American battleship USS Maine in Havana Harbor, tensions between Spain and the United States reached a breaking point. War was declared. Although Spain still possessed brave soldiers and experienced officers, its navy had fallen behind the world's newest industrial powers. The conflict lasted only a few months. Spain suffered devastating defeats in both the Caribbean and the Pacific. The Battle of Manila Bay destroyed Spain's Pacific fleet. Soon afterward, the Battle of Santiago de Cuba crippled its Atlantic fleet. The results were decisive. Spain lost Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. An empire that had taken centuries to build disappeared almost overnight. For many historians, 1898 marks the true end of Spain as a global imperial power. And the five pesetas coin, already circulating in the pockets of soldiers, merchants, and ordinary citizens, became a silent witness to that transformation. Everyday life of the five pesetas. Despite the political turmoil, life continued. The five pesetas remained one of Spain's highest value silver circulation coins. For an ordinary worker in the 1890s, five pesetas represented a meaningful amount of money. It could purchase several days' worth of food, pay a week's rent in some rural communities, or cover a skilled laborer's wages for multiple days. Because of its value, many people preferred to save these coins rather than spend them. Families often kept them in wooden boxes, cloth bags, or hidden compartments inside furniture. Parents gave them to children as wedding gifts. Merchants accepted them with confidence because everyone trusted their silver content. Unlike modern paper money, this coin possessed real intrinsic value. Its silver was worth something regardless of the government that issued it. Mintage and rarity. At first glance, the 1895 5 pesetas might seem common. Millions were struck during the reign of Alfonso XIII. But surviving examples tell a different story. Most entered heavy circulation. They passed through thousands of hands. Many developed worn surfaces. Others were melted during periods of rising silver prices. Wars, economic crises, and changing currencies led countless coins to disappear forever. Today, well-preserved examples are much scarcer than original mintages might suggest. Collectors pay special attention to hidden star dates, minting varieties, die differences, sharp strikes, original mint luster, attractive natural toning. Coins possessing all of these characteristics command substantial premiums. How collectors grade the coin. Condition determines value more than almost any other factor. Collectors use an internationally recognized grading scale. A coin graded good shows heavy wear, but major details remain visible. Very fine examples retain much of the portrait and coat of arms. Extremely fine coins display only light wear on the highest points. An about uncirculated specimen has almost no circulation wear. Finally, a mint state coin has never entered circulation. Its original mint luster remains intact. The difference in value between these grades can be dramatic. A worn example might sell for only its silver value plus a modest collector premium. A superb mint state example, especially one certified by a professional grading service, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. How much is it worth today? One of the most common questions collectors ask is, what is my coin worth? The answer depends on several factors. First, condition. Second, the hidden star date. Third, whether the coin has been cleaned. And finally, overall appeal. As a general guide, heavily circulated examples often sell for around $40 to $80. Very fine examples frequently bring $80 to $150. Extremely fine coins typically sell between $150 and $300. Beautiful about uncirculated examples may reach $400 to $800. Exceptional mint state pieces, especially with rare star dates or outstanding preservation, can exceed $1,000, and the finest certified examples have sold for several $1,000s at major auctions. Collectors are willing to pay these premiums because truly original examples are becoming increasingly difficult to find. Beware of cleaned and counterfeit coins. Because these coins are valuable, counterfeits exist. Some are modern cast copies made from base metals. Others contain very little silver. Still others are genuine coins that have been harshly cleaned. Cleaning may seem harmless, but among collectors, it is one of the quickest ways to reduce a coin's value. A cleaned coin often loses its natural surface. Its original luster disappears. Fine details become dull. Hairline scratches cover the fields. Professional collectors almost always prefer a naturally toned coin over one that has been polished to a bright shine. The safest approach is simple. Never clean an old coin. Leave its history intact. Why this coin still matters. More than 130 years have passed since this 5 pesetas was struck. Empires have risen and fallen. Kings have come and gone. World wars have reshaped continents. Spain has transformed from monarchy to republic, through dictatorship, and back to constitutional monarchy. Yet this coin remains. Its silver still shines beneath a century of gentle wear. Its portrait still preserves the face of a child who would grow into a king. Its coat of arms still tells the story of kingdoms united over centuries. Every mark upon its surface represents another chapter of history. It reminds us that coins are far more than currency. They are miniature time capsules. They preserve politics, art, economics, technology, and the lives of ordinary people. The 1895 Five Pesetas is not famous simply because it contains silver, nor because it bears the portrait of a king. Its true importance lies in when it was created. It was struck during the final years of Spain's overseas empire. It entered circulation as revolution spread across Cuba. It passed through the hands of merchants, soldiers, farmers, and families who had no idea their world was about to change forever. Only a few years later, Spain would lose its last great colonies. An empire that had dominated the world for centuries would become history. But this coin survived. Today, it continues to tell that remarkable story. A story of ambition, of power, of decline, of resilience, and of a young king whose face was forever captured in silver. So the next time you see an old coin, don't ask only what it's worth. Ask what it witnessed. Because sometimes, the smallest objects carry the greatest stories. And that is the enduring legacy of Spain's 1895 Five Pesetas.